Hi, everybody. It's Eric from Support Adventure, and today on our channel we have an interview with one of our top technicians. His name is Jonathan. He's from South Africa, and he actually shut down his own business in Cape Town, doing IT support there to join Support Adventure. And he has been contracted to a company in Florida as a level 3 engineer. And I think that this video will be very useful for MSPs who are wondering what kind of talent they can get from us and how these people view the whole process of getting a job with Support Adventure and what sort of tips and tricks you can pick up from here from how to hire these people and how to entice them. Jonathan makes reference to the 2 interviews that we put him with potential clients for him that we would assign him to, and how he really liked one of them and really didn't like the other. So if you're looking to attract the top talent for IT support, this video will be very, I hope, informative on how you can actually do that. So without further ado, here is the interview with Jonathan. Thanks a lot. Bye now. And so how was it to actually transition from working on your own business in Cape Town, going around and commuting and all that stuff, and actually working for another company that has like a greater structure that could guide you and sort of like sort things out for you, and just having like a normal sort of like expectation that you'll get paid every month rather than running your own business?
Well, it definitely made my stress a lot less. You know, there's no, oh my goodness, we got to pay this, and I got to go and find this client, or I got to go and get this extra work in there. There's none of that continuous need to be out there making new sales to fill in the blanks. There's obviously the other side of the coin. There's a negative in it, in that when I worked for myself, I knew everything about everybody's stuff. Now, working for somebody, I don't know everything about everything there, which is nice because in actual fact, I get to learn some new things. I get to be out of that element space and work my way into another area. And there are obviously changes as well from working in the South African market and then working in the international market, specifically in the US in my case, where the way that people operate and the way that people talk is a little bit different. And in that sense, I've had to adjust a couple of the things that I say and a couple of the ways that I work in order to relate to those people there.
So,
Expectations are also
yeah.
different.
What cultural differences have you noticed between the US and South Africa in the way that business is done?
Yeah, in South Africa, things are a lot. Uh, People are more now kind of scenario. We need it right now, and this is how it's going to be. Whereas in the US, they're a little more open-minded and a little more relaxed about it. They also, I mean, one of the bigger things is on that side, I noticed they're more aimed at process, and things need to be done X, Y, Z, P. Doesn't matter what it's going to cost us to do it, or if it's uncomfortable or something like that. We do it this way and we do it that way. Over here, when I was working for myself, I always had to try and make accommodations for certain clients because, we don't need that, or we don't know what that does. Or on the other end of the scale, I just don't want to do it. So, there are those changes, but I think that also has to do with the company that I'm working with. Um, they have a certain set way of doing things. It has opened my eyes on a few other expectations in terms of what would be expected from an IT person. There are a couple of things, though, on the other end that we do that they don't do. Um, and that way, I've tried to adjust that into their side as well. And they're like, oh yeah, but that actually makes sense. So, we're learning and helping each other to grow on both ends.
So you have a sort of reciprocal sort of like you're bringing what you can to the table. You're improving the operations of the company that we've assigned you to and all that
Mm.
stuff, and it just kind of works out in the end. Whereas like you feel it's a good fit based on like
Yeah.
the interview. Now, we had 2 companies that we interviewed you with when we were studying
Mm.
can you just compare the two interviews that you had? Because I think this is very important for potential clients to understand. Like I mean, I was in both of the interviews, and I
Mm.
realized the drastic sort of difference between the two
Mm.
interviews that you had. So
Well, the one was more like an interrogation than an
yeah,
interview. It was kind of like bang, what's this? Bang, bang, bang. Whereas the second one, it was more of an interaction with the client. You know, we had conversation. I mean, even in a certain point in the interview, we had a little moment of back. No, but I think this, and you think that. So there was even a resolved conflict interaction in the interview, which, in the grand scheme of how an interview goes, for me personally, the first interview, I was not happy with it. I didn't feel, I was not comfortable. I didn't want to be in that position there because of the basis that I got from the interview. Obviously, what I see in the interview is what I might expect to get when I'm working there. Now, with my second one, the interview was great. We had nice conversation. We made some jokes. As I said, we had a little, I wouldn't use the word disagreement. It was more like a difference of opinion, which was, later resolved on, oh yeah, I understand your point, you understand my point, and and further to that, that gave me the sense that when I worked there, I would get the same kind of interaction, if not better. Because normally when you're in an interview or you're meeting a person for the first time, you're up there on that extra, you got a few extra guards up in front of you, applying a few little extra intellectuals where you need to, putting your best foot forward, as they would say. So as I mentioned, obviously the grand scheme of it, the very first interview was unpleasant, and the second one was pleasant.
and
I
so
mean,
we decided to go with the second one, obviously, and
right.
you actually shopped around and had two interviews to compare with, like and this is something like the best applicants of ours really have two
Mm,
or three choices that they can go with, and
mm,
the people who are most experienced get to choose which company they go for, and that's like actually an opposite frame um that I'm very happy to give the best
mm,
candidates. Actually, like it's like, okay, so we're in the middle, support venture. We're looking for the best companies, the best people, and to match them up, basically, like a
right.
matchmaking and agency. And the whole thing is like we want to find the right match. And
Mm.
so, how has the match evolved over the last few months? I mean, how have the conversations evolved? How's the trust evolved?
Well, it's been 3 months since I've been there. Um, in the beginning, things were a little bit different in the sense that, a certain way that I speak and a certain way they speak and how things are operated. And I spent a lot of time investigating their style. They obviously asked me questions about things that I did as well. And through that process, we've come to learn, what things how they do things and what they can actually do for their clients, as opposed to what I can provide to them to enable their clients a little bit better. There's some clients who ask for me by name now, because I want that guy. He's helped me. He's done my thing. I want him. Um, and because of that kind of process, look, they've got a very nice reward system whereby if people give you praise, you get points, and from the points, you can actually purchase stuff for yourself, Amazon or games, Xbox, whatever. Um, so in that regard, I've been getting quite a bit of that as well from my peers, from clients. And in that respect, they've noticed it and they're like, yeah, okay, let's give him some other things to do. And as time has gone by, I've gone from doing small jobs, basically where they're feeling the waters, to getting further in, and to the point now where on Monday I have to liaise with another team in Germany in order to get a whole remote service set up for one of the clients there. So in that regard, I've grown with my knowledge in the company, as has my position within the company in terms of what I get to do. In that way, further to that, on the personal side of things, the conversations I have with people, we're more understanding each other a little bit better. In the beginning, you might say something, and the person's like, in it, it's a lost cultural change in terms of a certain expression or way things are said. Like, as an example, most of the times when I say to a person, just give me a moment while I'm looking up something, the Americans go, you're good, you're good. Everybody's like, you're good. On my side, most people go, no problem, no problem. So there's certain phrases and mannerisms that I've now picked up and have gone through in order to relate better with the people. And our conversation internally with the other guys that I work with has also progressed a bit more. You know, we're a lot more friendly with each other. We're a lot more chatty. It's not all just work, work, and how can you help me and how can you do that. We also do the common thing that most guys do when we work in an environment. We poke at each other about things, you know, send jokes over here and there. Oh, your computer's broken. Here's how you fix it. Send them a gif of a hammer. Bang. You know, so in that regard, I think it's growing every day that I work, and every time, everything that I do with them, our relationship together is growing.
Yeah. So, and do you feel that you're actually having more growth than you could if you just stayed running your own business in South Africa?
Definitely do feel that I am getting that in the regard that I'm learning newer products and newer ways of doing things. And further to that, I also get a lot of training from them. I get training on business processes, training on just basic things on how to convey and how to speak with people and how to identify certain characteristics in order to help you work your job better. Further to that, we've obviously got all the technical training that comes with it, learning new systems in terms of the support side of it, how you provide the support to the client, and further to that, what the client actually has, the systems that they've got there, and what this does, and how that operates. Um, one of the benefits with them is they do also have larger corporate clients, which means that the depth or the actual infrastructure in that client is a lot larger than what I'm used to, and therefore there are more working parts, more things to consider, and you know, expanding that knowledge or that thought process to incorporate a couple of other things. Um,
Right. So what are the biggest differences? Like, okay, so going from being a sort of self-employed sort of computer technician to being like a contractor for Support Adventure, what are the biggest sort of like differences? Like, is it working with a team? Is it using the ticketing system? Is it like what are the biggest differences and what are the biggest things that you had to sort of adjust to?
Well, the biggest difference for me is when I worked for myself, there wasn't really a time schedule, you know, in the sense that I work now, then for 2 hours, I don't have any work to do. I'll browse the internet, go look for something or whatever, and then do some more work later. Whereas what I have now is I'm in at 8 and I'm working, bang, 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 the whole day. When I get to a certain point and I don't have any work to do, oh, let's throw in some training there. Um, and you know, in that other time I also get to help people, and there is another dynamic that changes for me. Previously it was just myself and another guy, and really we didn't work together. He kind of ran one side, I ran one side. We basically told each other what's going on and helped where we needed. But now with the team that I'm working in, there's much more interaction with other people, especially within the technical environment. And in that way, I'm also learning some tricks that other people have got, and they're learning some tricks from me. In the sense that, oh, have you thought about doing it this way? No, I didn't even know it could do that. Oh, let's try it. You know, um, so that is progressing things for me a lot different. Uh, the only other thing for me is the time management. The time in the day and in the night. Obviously, because I'm working in the US, technically my daytime is the nighttime. So my personal life has had to adjust a little bit more to try and get things done during the day and then work in the night. The first little bit when we started working, it was a little bit of a transition change, you know, try this, try that. And eventually we found the rhythm that now kind of works. Um, and that I think was probably the biggest difference for me was the working time. Um,
Yeah, but it's like, as I understand from my visit to Cape Town, it's like there's not really much you can do in the evening in Africa.
Not really, no, no.
Like you don't go for a walk. It's you
Yeah,
know.
plus, you know, I could say I'm old and I have kids, but I'm not old. So I do have kids though, and generally in that stage, you don't go out at night.
Yeah.
you know. So working at night is cool. The only thing that has, as I mentioned, was the change of times is a little bit different because at the nighttime the kids were used to being with me. We're going to watch TV, we're going to have dinner and all that stuff. So now we try and incorporate those things during the day.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest items that I'm still struggling with is that portion after you finish working where you're still awake and your mind is still spinning a little bit with work and you start working off things and you're going down. That 2-3 hours after work is very quiet. It's very peaceful. The part that I'm struggling with is to match it in so that I can get a full sleep cycle and still spend time with everybody. Um, so
So what time are you waking up in the morning these days?
Uh, look, around about, it's not in the morning. Sometimes it's 11, 12,
That's good.
1
I
in the
mean,
afternoon. It depends really on what time I actually managed to fall asleep, which is generally about 3 a.m. So if I get my 8, 9 hours of sleep, I'm looking at 11, 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is technically the latest I can sleep because that gives me about 2 hours before I start work. Eat, shower, get ready, prep myself, that stuff.
yeah. So, okay, let's talk more about South Africa and the sort of like social and economic climate that exists there now, and why you would have actually chosen to look for an option that would take you to not be economically dependent on that country. So,
Well, politics not a good thing here.
have you ever been outside of Africa, actually?
No, not really. Places I've been to the DRC, into Congo, I've been to Mozambique and those areas around
So,
there.
in
So
Africa,
basically
traveling,
everything
yeah.
that's in Africa still. Um, the one of the reasons that we or why I was looking at this as an opportunity was that I'm getting paid firstly in a foreign currency from the US market and um, my income then is a little bit easier to manage in the sense that historically the US is generally doing pretty good and their money is worth something pretty much everywhere. Um, Now, from my side, the opportunities available for me to do work or to be employed are very limited. Earlier on, we discussed with the interview where Support Adventure likes to give us the technicians on the higher end or with the more skill levels. There are more opportunities available in the sense that you got one or two customers that are actually looking to hire you. On this end of the side, here in Africa, it's more like there are 100 applicants for one position, and then your chances are 1 in 100.
I would just
Uh,
clarify that actually we're getting 50 applications a day, most of them from South Africa,
mm,
and
mm.
you are one in 1,000. So
Yeah. Well,
hats off to you.
thanks. Thanks for
Yeah.
that. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, over here, I don't always even get the opportunity to apply for a work position due to the climate in politics and so on. Um, sorry, it's not my big thing in life. It's not something really I follow.
No,
So
but
conversation on it for me is a bit
but
limited.
just kind of like you feel that the opportunity for you and people like you in South Africa would be to look for work abroad and work remotely now that the sort of global economic climate has allowed for that to be an
Mm,
option.
mm,
It's a
mm.
better option than working locally, right?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I was going to put it straight. I mean, the pay is better. um,
Yeah.
but besides for that, as I mentioned earlier, the market here is kind of stemmed in limitations in certain things. So the only places where you really get to expand your legs as an IT person uh, in terms of infrastructure and technologies is in your very large corporate companies. And as a smaller IT person, a 1-2 man show, I'm never going to get one of those clients. And getting a position at one of those places is also difficult because most of the guys that are in that kind of position have been in that position for 5 to 10 years and ain't changing that position. Um,
And also, what does it look like? should things in South Africa not go well, um, how does it feel to have the option to just like get on a plane and know that on the other side you can log on with your laptop and sort of, you know,
It's it's an amazing relief to me to be able to work anywhere at any time should the need arise. That is one of those nicest things. When I was younger, I always thought to myself that one day I will work on the beach, just sitting there. Oh, flip open the laptop. Yeah, we'll do some here, we'll do some there. Go for a swim, come back, do some more. This job gives me the opportunity to do that. Fair enough. I have enough work to do that I probably won't get to swim, but it doesn't mean that the opportunity is not there.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So you can
further
be
to
where you
that,
want. Yeah.
yeah, further to that, I do have the inkling in my family. We do want to move to somewhere else, into another country. We haven't yet completely settled. We have a couple of ideas, but the one thing that this position does is it gives me the opportunity to explore those, um, let's call it dreams, to explore those areas a lot better because I feel that I am more secure in my position financially with my job that I have. And in terms, as we discussed now, if things happen to go and we have to leave, I can leave. It's cool. I don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, where am I going to get money from? What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Um, I definitely feel a lot more secure in my life at the moment
I'm
and
so happy
making
with
those
that
kind of those
because like
choices.
as you know, we met like my sales team was reaching out to IT business owners in South Africa, and that's how we
Mm-hmm.
met. And then I started telling you about the business. You said that actually this is maybe for me actually.
Mm,
This is
mm, mm.
interesting, and I didn't actually take it seriously when we were sitting there for a coffee,
Yeah,
but
well, I
then
mean,
you followed up. Yeah.
when we met, we had a conversation. Basically, it was neither here nor there about me working there or you
Yeah.
guys applying people here. We had more of a conversation on a one-to-one basis about things, about the work, about the areas, about what we do, what we can do, what we can't do, and things along those lines. And I was actually thinking about it now the other day. I got in the car and I sat there for a few moments and I was like, let me think about this. Then there's an hour's drive home from where we met. And by the time I got home, I was like, nah, damn, I think this is the right bus to be jumping on. And that was me. Yeah. I even said, hey, look, Eric, here's my stuff. Come on. And
Well,
now,
I
now
actually
I'm on
left
the
my
potty bus.
I was like you. I was like you, running my own business in Toronto, Canada,
Mm,
where everything was fine. I had lots of money, no problems, apart from the fact that I didn't have enough passion. And
mm,
every year I would travel to Europe and sort of discover the old world culture and sort of be invigorated by that. And when I went back to Canada, that was like, and so from that, I would develop. I would like go back to Serbia, and as my business sort of dwindled,
mm,
like in Canada, I was like, there has to be a way to do this. Like tech was evolving to the point where, like from 2007, I could have like my own voice over IP line that I could
mm,
talk to
mm,
my
mm, mm.
clients in Toronto from a local number with like a phone,
Right.
and it was like the delay was non-existent. It was like
Mm,
this is going to be a thing. So it took me until like 2013 until I actually convinced somebody in London to give me a position for this. And I'm like,
mm.
wow, this is a business. This is like, hmm. So this is actually going to be the future.
Yeah.
And now with the coronavirus over the last 3 months, actually, a lot of people
Mm.
realize that this is the present
Oh, yes.
and remote working is a thing. And now everybody has like come to our sort of way of working.
Right.
And so it just comes down to like, how do we optimize this new environment? How do we make
Mm,
it so people around the world who, like you, can actually jump into a US company and
mm,
provide results and fit into their culture and all stuff.
mm,
How do we make that so that it's like as smooth as possible so they just want to say yes? I mean,
mm, mm.
okay, obviously there's some considerations for US workers like, you know, with this competition, with people like you going on there,
Mm,
you
mm, mm.
get less
There is.
jobs. But, you also have to deal with that. I mean,
Hey, look, you got that in every country you go to. Doesn't matter
Yeah,
where you go.
there's
You
competition. Yeah.
There's competition for the position, and at the end of the day, if you can do that position well and the people like you, it's really it's a no-brainer, you know.
So I'm really for this hardcore internationalist, like wherever you want
Mm,
to go in the world, wherever you feel comfortable, log on and do work. And luckily, the
mm.
technology has provided the opportunity for
Yes.
people to do that, and for people like you
Mm,
who have, been in the local economies of places like South Africa to actually say that this is a benefit to work with
mm.
the company, and for companies in the United States to say, actually, this guy will give as good a service as the people who can hire locally. So why not give
Yeah.
them a chance? Or, we
Yeah.
always start on a trial basis, like let's try it out because I don't want good
Right.
contract. I don't want bad contracts. I want
Mm.
good contracts on my business because like bad contracts have significantly impacted my quality of life as a
Yes.
business owner actually.
Yes.
Because
I
like
fully understand that point of view, having been a business owner myself.
yeah,
Those things keep you up at night.
exactly. If everybody's happy, you go to
Mm.
sleep and you have a good sleep. But if
You sleep
somebody's not,
happy.
yeah, if somebody's not happy, you just have this sort of like inkling of like I should do something. What else
Mm,
can I
mm,
do? No,
mm,
no, no, no,
mm, mm,
no. And so really, what has really evolved the business over the last few months is actually, I can tell you,
mm,
is people from South Africa
mm.
and the quality of people like you who are applying and going through our training and testing program
Right.
and actually emerging, and then we present them to US and UK clients that like,
Mm,
wow, this is everything that I want in a candidate. And
mm, mm.
they're almost like ashamed that like they were hiring people locally because we've got feedback like we assigned one tech from South Africa
Mm.
to a client, and they're like, okay, now all the other techs have to step their game up because this guy is so awesome. And so what is it about South Africa, that what is it about people and your people and people that that makes them so agile in terms of learning new skills and wanting to go the extra mile?
It's the we have to be able to adapt and go the extra mile in order to make a basic here.
Yeah.
So, look, I'm going to be honest here. This is the one thing, to be fully candid. I personally notice the amount of work and effort that I put in versus what I see in my colleagues. It's like there. Um, in terms of basically just the sheer times of I say I'm going to phone you. I will phone you 3 times today. You know what I mean? We the I must get it done mentality is different. For them, we'll get it done over there. For us, it's I must get it done now because if I can get it done now, it's out of the way. Um, and myself personally, where I get that drive from is when I worked for myself or having my own business. It was 18 hours a day. Everything I'm doing, if it's not making me money, I'm not doing it. Simple. And that's all we had to do every day. Push, push, push. More, more, more. Doesn't matter. More, more, more. You got enough. Push more. Why? Because next week could be different.
And so
Um,
how has that translated into your current position?
Look, it's fantastic for my position because I am able to push out my regular standard of work and be recognized for it as being good. You know, the work is great. Whereas here, it's expected. It must be that good. Otherwise, it's that's the thing. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. Other than by I personally feel the people here work harder at what they're doing and are more committed to the work item. Um, I'm just trying to think who it was. Yeah, to the work standard, the standard of work, basically, as expected by an employee. I think that also comes along the line here, whereby, hey, look, you're just an employee. Hey, you die today, tomorrow they got somebody in your chair.
Yeah. And we noticed that actually a lot of the applicants from South Africa were asking about weekend work. It's like, no, actually our contracts are Monday to Friday. You know, like
Well,
you're gonna have a shift of like 9 hours. You're gonna get 1 hour lunch, and if they ask
mm,
anything outside of that, it's gonna be paid overtime, and that tends to not be a thing. And tell me about that.
that's that's one thing I have to stop myself with, because I'll get to 4:30 and I'll be, damn, I got these 3 tickets, man. I'm sure I can just knock them out quickly now. It's still light outside. Let's do it. Um, but I think that has something to do with the service delivery side. In we've got to get it done, and the sooner I can get it done, the better it is for me. Um, and in our case, yeah, look, I see it even during the day. If you take, we've got retail stores and that are open. I mean, the guys are open from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. Why? Because people are coming to buy stuff. Um, and in that regard, I think, sorry, I'm just trying to string my thought into a coherent sentence. um, I think basically the one thing that's there on that, no, sorry, that it's gone.
But basically, you're satisfied with like the change from running your own business
Oh yes,
to sort of like working in the evenings in South Africa for a US company, and you see that like, well, there's options for you in life, and you can travel, to different parts of the world if need be,
right.
and you just kind of like feel like there's more structure now, right, than running around Cape Town and doing your own business, right?
Definitely, definitely. And as I mentioned, it's a lot less stressful and a lot less of the grind all the time. Previously I used to work from before 8 in the morning until after 12 every day, every night, just so that I can make what I need to pay my bills. And then even sometimes you didn't make it. Hold on. Hey, please can you remove the crazy? Sorry, they spend their time with me.
The cats,
Uh,
yeah. How
yeah,
many
my
cats do
office
you
has
have?
got a nice thick type carpet in it, so for them it's lovely to lie. Yeah, plus it's winter now, so it's cold and the heater
Is it
is
cold?
on.
Is it really cold? Do you have heating in your house?
Yeah, I have heating in, yeah, so the aircon is on a heater this side.
Right.
It's quite nice. It warms up my office and then about half the floor upstairs.
So now
Um,
in Serbia it's 33 degrees actually.
right.
So yeah,
So look,
we're sitting.
it's not that cold. If you're outside and you're chilling in the sun, you'll be warm. But in the shade, it's a bit chilled. Um, I do know though that what's cold for me is not cold for Americans. We've had that conversation before. The guys, I'm sitting at my desk, I've got a jacket on and I've got a hoodie on, and the guys are like, "Are you cold?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's winter." It's like what would be like 5 degrees for us, and the guy's like, "Nah, man,
Five
it's okay.
degrees? Five
Five
degrees
degrees
Celsius.
Celsius. Yeah,
Yeah, so the thing is like I grew up in Canada, which is right next to, it's like
it
an
hits the
hour.
minuses.
No, it's an hour if you want to drive to the United States, but all the weather all our lives was like Celsius and we don't know
Mm-mm.
Fahrenheit. So you look at wow, it's really much hotter than 77. That's really hot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, 5 degrees, that's cold for Africa, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cold.
yeah.
That's cold for us, man. There are some places where it does get colder, but then you'll see us. We got beanies on, full jackets and everything, and the guys are out, and we'll still be going, this is cold. But as I said, the guys in America, they still joke at me. They're like, that's not cold, man. You must come here. Come
So
and
you
feel the
convert it into
-10.
Fahrenheit for them, yeah? Because I'm
Yeah, we
always
do.
Googling that stuff like, okay, so 5 degrees is, what is it? It's like 40 degrees Fahrenheit or
Yeah.
something like that. It's
Fun
really
fact:
a
the
non,
new Windows calculator actually has all of those conversions in its options.
yeah.
So I sit now on this. I got 3 screens up. On my third screen, I have that little calculator, and a conversion table for me. Also, so that when I speak to a client, because I do things in meters, liters,
Yeah,
that
like
kind
the
of thing.
sensical system. Yeah.
You're right. So
So I grew
the
up in
one that
Canada,
actually
and like
counts.
they only like converted to metric in the 70s.
Right.
So everything regarding personal measurements, like I'm 6'1"
Yeah.
and I weigh 100 and something pounds,
Right.
and yeah, but everything like the street signs were always like kilometers, like 200 kilometers to Montreal,
Right.
sort of
Right.
thing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like confusing. But then since I moved to Europe, it's like, yeah, okay, so how many calories are there in 100 grams of this meat?
Mm,
Like
mm, mm,
how
mm,
many,
mm,
yeah, cheese or whatever it
mm,
is,
mm.
just makes a lot more sense, and
It
it's hard to
does.
sort of like
It
convert
does.
that
I
to.
don't know how to measure things in 2.5 centimeters. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, an inch up here. I know how
Yeah.
to do it because I grew up in a system that was transitioning away from
Mm,
the
mm.
imperial system, but whatever.
Right.
It's
So you went through the change as part of your life. I'm now
well,
going through that
the
change as
change
well.
technically happened before I was born, but there was
Right.
remnants of that sort of system after I was born, like as in I'm still 6'1", not 183 centimeters. So
Yes. Yes. Yes.
yeah, so
Well,
it's
we
like
we also measure people's height that way in a certain
really
length of feet. Yeah.
okay.
Generally.
So
Well,
it's like
yeah, in my
a similar
experience. Yeah.
remnants of
Yeah.
the imperial system that the British used when they were
I
in
think
South Africa.
I think it's a different influence. I think it comes from television.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because there are certain expressions and phrases that I use, and I know that it comes from television, and
So
it
what is the
fills
what would
directly
you
in.
say that the influence of American culture was on you growing up in South Africa?
Well, I mean, we had all the American shows. We had American wrestling, American cartoons, there's American movies. Only recently, in let's say the last 10, 15 years, has there started being a lot more South African production that I'm seeing on that global level. I remember being a kid, and there were cartoons on TV that were for South Africans, like a show called Brak and Jan, which is like Three Musketeers in Afrikaans. And we had He-Man, Ninja Turtles, Mortal Kombat cartoons, all that stuff, Hanna-Barbera and all the guys. So further to that, as I've grown up, all the movies we watch, a lot of the TV shows that we watch are coming directly from the US. And in that respect, a lot of our culture and a lot of the ways we look at things and how we speak in certain phrases and mannerisms are translated from that and have become part of regular culture here. And I think portion of that has actually helped me with the transition and the conversation with people. Still some things like I say Z instead of Z and router instead
Also
of
in
router.
Canada, we do the same. Actually, Z is our letter, and
Yes,
we would spell color with a U,
yes,
for example. But
yes,
then
yes.
we would actually use the word globalized with a Z, but not
Right.
a Z. So
Uh-huh.
British spelling would be with an S, globalized,
Correct. I get hit with
but
that one all the time.
we would use it with a Z, but we would call it Z actually. So
Right, right, right. So, fortunately for me, all my spell checkers on my machine are set for US English. So it reminds me every now and then that I've put a U in color and an S in organization instead of a Z.
yeah,
And prioritize and all of those little words that I'm so used to. It's S, and then they've got a Z in its place. No, it's
I
not
I don't
right.
think anybody would actually like hold it against you though if you were to write an email which had S instead of like in an ized word
Mm,
like
mm, mm, mm,
globalized
mm.
or
There are,
rationalized or
however, some words that I type in that the spell check comes up to say it's a wrong word because it doesn't have the word in its dictionary. So that is
I
fun.
find that actually very strange what yeah, the limitations of Google Dictionary and like the
Uh,
language
it,
that they
it's
have improved
it's
it.
it's
Yeah.
on their PSA system that they've got that spell check. So I think it's just localized to that PSA system. But
Yeah.
there are certain, and I do know that they are what we would call higher English words.
Yeah.
Um,
A little more, yeah. Well, I would say that definitely moving to the United Kingdom at the age of 27, I think I was,
mm,
definitely elaborated on my ability to use the English language.
Right.
and built on the foundation that growing up in Canada gave me, and going to London
Mm-mm.
and hearing how they use the language there where it originates,
Yeah.
and that was definitely very educational, and
Mm.
it leaves a, and definitely working with companies in England for the next, primarily for the next 5 years, definitely changed the way that I speak English and
Yes.
made me much more eloquent, actually.
Mm. Mm.
um, Rather than American English. It's pretty straightforward. What
That
what are
is
the
true.
biggest differences that you've found in the way that Americans speak? I mean, you've mentioned a few of them, but what actually was the, when you're talking to them on the phone, what was the thing actually?
Um, honestly, I don't find too many differences, but there are a lot of things where they shorten. Like they don't say you all, they say y'all, and they don't use the word guys.
Y'all,
Hey
y'all.
guys, yeah, they say y'all. Hey y'all. Um, they also don't say cheers to say
Well, that's
goodbye.
actually regional. Actually, you're working for an MSP in
In
Florida,
Florida,
so
yeah,
that could
yeah,
actually be part of the South technically, and there might be a bit of that. But in
right.
standard North American English, we don't say y'all. We say
So in
you.
that respect, I have been told by the people that I work with that the English there is specific to that area.
Yeah.
There are a lot of words, a lot of phrases, and sentences that people use that will only apply there.
Okay.
So,
But you can understand what they're saying, what they mean when
yeah, oh no,
in a customer
definitely.
service situation, actually, like just sort of like,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely that we can. Um, and there are a couple of items that I've had to be educated about. Like they go, "Oh, look, it was Florida man," and apparently in Florida there's
Florida
a big
man.
Florida man. So what happens is on the news, there's always a report: Florida man gets struck by lightning while eating catfish, or
Okay,
something like
so
that.
actually, what the thing is Florida has a legislation that means that every time somebody gets prosecuted with something, there's like a
Yes.
release of the actual specific prosecution of that person with the
Mm-mm-mm.
description Florida man. So
Mm.
Florida man, walked into a
That's
circuit
it.
with
So
a sword or
I
something.
didn't know
Like,
this was around, and you can go and Google it, and there's
yeah.
plenty of it out there. Um, then the biggest changes for me, as I said, were just pronunciations of certain items. Router is a router,
So
and
process versus process is like,
yes,
honestly, I didn't really notice how much my pronunciation changed with working with the UK, but process
mm,
became process, and lots of different words with that same sort of phonetic shift actually
yes,
became normal for me to, like, I say process now, and actually I can't really reconcile, like, growing up in Canada, which one is my native pronunciation, or if
yes,
there were two. But I'm pretty sure
mm,
that standard North American English would say process rather than
yes,
process,
and things
and
like I say tomato, and
produce. Yeah,
produce. Um, but
produce,
there's a
produce.
few.
Yeah,
Earlier on, I mentioned word that I couldn't find. The word is telephonically.
yeah.
So if I phone you telephonically, because you know what telephone is,
But
but that word doesn't exist.
I'm not sure it exists in UK English. Like, too. Like, are there things in South African English that you would actually, like, imagine are archaic sort of words that they might have used in the UK like 200 years ago? There might be.
Definitely in South African English, there are words that are not in other English
Yeah.
dictionaries.
And so,
Um,
what would you say, actually, like getting back to South Africa and the topic, what would you say that the biggest difference is between people in South Africa and their attitude to work versus what you perceive in the US?
um, where we, uh, my wife tried to explain it to me in an essence of a where we work to live, whereas they live to work.
Okay.
As a difference. So we work as a means to being able to party and work and live our lives, whereas they're living to be able to do work,
Hmm.
as an example.
But you didn't feel
Um,
like you were living like that when you were an entrepreneur working 18 hours a day. It was still just like, I got to get
oh
this
no,
done and go.
there I
Yeah.
was alive to be working.
Yeah.
And the reason I was working was because that's the only way I would live. It's
Yeah,
a
it's a rabbit
vicious
hole that
circle,
you get
that one.
into, and as entrepreneurs, like stuff needs to be done. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
look, from my own perspective, the biggest differences between the people that I can see, without having to sit and physically nitpick and everything, is the cultural changes in how we are raised to expect things and how we are raised to what is expected of us, obviously, then appears as us when we're older and how we do things. Um, with them, the main differences I find are cultural. And
yeah.
because of those cultural differences, we find differences in the way that they speak and the way that they work and the way they work with each other and that kind of thing. Um,
But it's very
so
similar at the same time. Like,
it's very similar. It's not like, oh my gosh, I don't get it. I don't understand these people or any of that stuff. That's why when you ask me that question to relate to you, I really have to sit here and think about some things that's specific that I can really relate to difference.
so I
Because
knew actually in February when I met you, when I came to Cape Town, I needed to like because some of the greatest people we had like applying to our company were from South
mm,
Africa, and I needed to go there to understand your mentality. And then when you told me all that stuff, like you know, I could leave
mm,
in a moment. I'm thinking of leaving. Things here are not good, and all that stuff. I was like,
mm, mm,
I needed to go to South Africa to understand that, and I needed to meet
mm,
the people and like walk the streets and see what the
mm,
situation
mm,
is and sort of figure that out. But in the end, what I figured out is like South Africa was like for me simultaneously the most exotic and the
mm,
most familiar place that I visited. Like over the last year, which
mm,
includes
mm,
like Colombia, Thailand,
mm, mm. I get
you
it.
know,
It's so
yeah.
different, but it's everything that you recognize.
But in a really different context, in a really,
Yes.
really different context, in a really
Mm,
like sort of like, yeah, I mean, growing up in Canada, like, is even really different than the United States, for example.
right,
If you
right.
go across the border, you become very immediately aware that it's a really different country with a really
Mm,
different
mm,
socioeconomic. Because in Canada, we're like Switzerland, like
mm,
everybody's
mm.
like taken care of by the government and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
And in the
yeah.
States, you could immediately see that there's lots of people who don't have
Yes.
stuff, opportunities, so on and so
Mm,
forth.
mm, mm, mm,
And so I went to Africa, to South Africa, to explore that, and I met lots of great people like you, and I got a picture of a place which was like, it's either gonna get, it's probably gonna get a lot worse,
mm,
but it might actually, there's potential here based on
mm,
the foundations that people have built
mm,
would actually endure. But I understand why somebody like you would want to have an opportunity that's not tied to that place, where
mm,
if you want to like get on a plane over a weekend
mm, mm, mm.
and then you're in another country, you wake up Monday morning, you know that you're still going to have money.
Yeah, that's the kind of the same perspective I have of it. It has the opportunity to go either way, and whichever way it goes, I need to be prepared. And this position is giving me that preparation. Um, and the one thing I can say though is the people have it in them to do it either way. And most people I know lean to making it better. I just, as
And
you
staying.
say, it's
Yeah.
possible that it might get worse before it gets better. As they say, that expression, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
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 So I'm just making sure I got me a flashlight, and thanks to Support Adventure, I do.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm really happy to provide that because like so my thing was like it started with me actually feeling from my travels that I wanted to live in Eastern Europe, where my roots
Mm,
are, where my family came from, etc. Central Europe, Central Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, whatever you want to call it, like Serbia, yeah. And what came from that was a vision on a global culture, which is actually just like, well, these countries like Canada, US, UK, Australia, they're really good for business, but not really the best place for pleasure.
mm,
And I understand I might be saying these things and you might not understand the perspective, but I've traveled everywhere around the world to find the best places to live. And actually the best places to live now are not the Western countries because, like,
Mm.
if you get a salary in England, is barely enough to pay this, barely enough, or in
Oh
the
yeah.
US, barely enough for that. Like it's a struggle there. Whereas, like, if you have a salary that resembles the stability of those countries
Mm.
in another country that maybe pays like
Mm.
double the average wage in a place like South Africa or Serbia,
Yeah.
like life can be really good. And that was the vision. And on top of that, the life was just so much more rich and
Mm.
invigorating for me. Like traveling, being a traveler, like going to all these places, because like in Canada, people actually prioritize like their economic sort of like well-being as their main
Mm.
thing in life, and then they just go home, shut up, and watch TV
Yeah.
as like the mainstream. Whereas in Europe, you have like, for example, I'm living right now in Belgrade. There's an urban area. Within 20 minutes, I can walk to the main square of the country.
Mm.
And on the way, you've just got lots of people, characters, local businesses, and stuff like that. I did not have that in Canada.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
I don't feel like, yeah, in South Africa, it was interesting to go to Cape Town, really cool. But I saw that it was a place where I could not sit down roots. Like, I could not
Mm.
trust that actually this was a place where I could buy property
No,
or
I
where I
understand.
could,
I live here. I live, well, I technically I live about 80 kilometers away from Cape Town.
yeah,
But I can't live there either. That's why I stay out where I do. It's more
yeah,
appropriate for me where I am, out in the middle of the wine farms with the mountains and the goats and the pigs and all that fun stuff.
yeah. And what? Okay, so what would you miss most if you say like get on the plane,
The weather.
Saturday? No, but what if you went to some place like Panama or something where what
Where
climate
the
is
weather
very
is the
similar?
same.
Yeah,
Um, my brain, the first word that pops into my brain is the people.
yeah, and
I might miss the people. Um,
because there's a realness in South Africa, there's a realness in a lot of these places that you don't have in countries that are so commodified and
mm,
transactional as the
mm, mm,
USA,
mm,
where
mm.
it's like
Hey, well, look, I can
I did
drive an
feel it.
hour
I did
down the
feel it.
road this way, and I'm in a place where they don't even have electricity. If I drive an hour down the road the other way, I'm in full on concrete jungle,
Yeah,
which you don't get in some places. I mean, if you take certain places in the US, you can travel for days before you leave the city.
yeah, yeah. For example, yeah, and it's all suburban. Yeah, for
Mm.
example, yeah. So, what is the biggest sort of like, okay, what is the biggest thing you worry about in your life in South Africa? Is it security, safety, the murder rate, all of that stuff? Or is it like something
Uh,
more?
Look, safety and security is a problem no matter where you go. Uh, I've dealt with it most of my life. I've lived
Not
in
really, man.
some really.
Honestly, you said you've never been outside of South Africa. Like, honestly, I'm in Serbia now,
Yeah,
and women in miniskirts can
are not
walk
in
back
trouble.
from the club at
I get
four
it.
in the morning without
I
any
get it.
fear that anything will happen to them. So maybe you haven't experienced that sort of like,
Well, that is definitely a downfall on my end, not having to be out around to other places. What I consider to be normal is normal from my experience. You know what I
right.
mean? But I can say small things like on our side, safety and security is a big thing. It's a big part of our life. Everywhere you go, you're always watching your back, kind of story. Um, and that is a problem for me. It's a problem because I have two daughters as well, which, as you mentioned, now violence against women is a big thing, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I personally don't understand it because it does not compute in my brain. Um, but I can't speak for any other person outside there. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter where I'm going or what I'm going to do. I'm always going to be making those safety measures in place that I need to. I will say, though, one thing: the area where I live in now is what we feel safer than other areas around us, and that's based upon the community that I live in. You understand? Around
People that
here,
people that, and if there's
doesn't
something
even
happening on the
people I
streets
see
that
in the
doesn't really,
street.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I feel in Serbia, actually, which I did not feel in Canada,
Mm,
specifically that if there's someone who appears to have trouble on the streets with someone else, someone will step in and say, hey,
Yeah,
wait a second,
exactly.
don't do this, for example.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, so Serbia is really safe. Canada was really safe in that respect. But
Mm-mm.
every time I went into the US, for example,
Mm,
I felt that there was a danger.
mm,
And specifically, actually, from the authorities, there was a sort of predatory authoritarian culture, which is why you have all of these, issues now that they're having in the States, which is
mm,
like,
mm,
yeah, they have an authoritarian police culture and they have a massive crime problem, and that's the
mm,
United States. And you think of it like this affluent country.
mm,
It's not
mm,
like that. It's actually like being from Canada and having lived in Europe,
mm,
the United States actually shares more in common with South Africa and the socioeconomic sort
mm,
of
mm,
disparity that exists there.
mm,
And it's
mm,
like really interesting to always have known that. Going across the border, you drive an hour and a half from where I lived, and you're in the
mm,
United States, and the border guards are like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Like, why are you
mm,
coming
mm.
here? Like,
What's wrong
interrogating
with
you,
you? Go
basically."
away.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, why are you going to Buffalo? That's a shithole. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to a country that's the first city here. Like, anyways, but it's like there's a lot of work to be done, but the USA has done really well in fostering entrepreneurialism,
Mm,
and
mm,
that's
mm,
essentially the lifeblood that we can work in this remote business on. And it's really good and really nice people there, but they have problems definitely
mm,
that they
mm,
need to deal with on that level. And I think South Africa also has problems, but at the same time, I feel like people like you need an option to absolve themselves. And people like me, like I wasn't forced out of Canada, but
mm.
I consider myself like a cultural refugee.
Right. I
Whereas like
understand.
I reached affluence in society, I was charging $85 an hour to go to people's houses and like reboot their
Mm,
router and
mm,
stuff like that. So
mm, mm, mm,
that was all fine. That was all fine. But culturally, I felt like I could grow as a human being more in Europe.
mm, mm. Felt more at
And
home.
yeah. And so I moved to Europe, to Serbia specifically, because it was like the most sort of diverse culturally.
Mm, mm.
Like, whereas like Central Europe, but also Balkans, Middle East has an influence here. And like, it was like,
Right.
yes, this works for me. And it's like, it's not all about money, is it? It's not all
No.
about, it's about actually feeling like you belong in a community. It's about feeling that you have a place in the world. So
Mm, mm,
the question I have for you is like, if everything went to hell in South Africa and you had to get on a plane, tonight, Friday night,
mm.
which part of the world would most inspire you to get on that plane to? Would it be
So,
Europe? Would it be South America? Would it be Asia?
well, look, having not explored most of it, and my wife and I had already agreed that we would go and look at the places we think we would like to be at. Um, One benefit having a Portuguese nationality passport means that I can pretty much go anywhere. If I wanted to go to
Yeah,
the US, I can
but you
get to the
haven't done
airport
that.
and go, here's a visa. I haven't done it because, honestly, I've never had the money for it. And the main reason I've never had the money for it is because I've been scraping my ass through just to, you know, working, like I mentioned to you, 18, 19 hours a day just to make the minimum. Uh, is not cool. But if we did go, if I had to leave immediately now, I think probably the place that I would go to would be Canada,
Yeah, okay.
right?
That's where I'm from, and I left there.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I
fair enough.
understand
Yeah,
that. But that's purely on the basis of from what we have seen, from what we've read, it is a nice place to stay, depending where you go within the area, right?
totally
And
decent. Yeah,
yeah, so further to that,
absolutely, 100% decent. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that would be my I'm leaving right now kind of
That
scenario.
would be like a new home that you would default to because you know that things there are going to be like fair and decent,
Right.
right?
And on top of
For
that,
your own, but like, what is the exotic sort of location you would want to travel to? If you could think of a place that would be novel to you, what would be the place? Like,
that's a very difficult question. And the main reason for that being is I've never really had major aspirations of traveling around the world or I
okay,
want to see this place.
yeah,
I always thought to myself, maybe it might be something I'd be interested in when I was old enough to kind of do like a retirement travel the world thing, when I don't have to look
Mm.
after two little sniveling things.
Kids, yeah.
Children, sometimes you love them, sometimes you hate them, but I got to look after them because I love them. I got to make sure that they're getting the
No,
best.
but
So,
that's
as I
practical
said,
sort of stuff. You're a very practical guy, but like
in
if
in
you were
in my
like your
life, I had
kids,
thought about traveling around the world, kind of a scenario. Once I got to the point when they were old enough and ugly enough to look after themselves,
yeah.
um, and in that essence, you know, my wife and I had discussed it. We would probably take the tour around the world, going via Europe, and through that way, and then maybe doing the island kind of thing at the end of it. But that's why I said, unfortunately, for me to answer that question for you directly, I don't really have any exotic place in my mind that I might want to go to. I might like to go to the rainforest just for the sake of saying, hey, look, I've been to the Amazon rainforest. You know what I mean? There are a couple of cultural sites that I might, you know, go to, Stonehenge, that kind of thing. But as I said, there's nowhere specifically exotically in my brain that, oh, I would love to live there.
Okay. Well, I've been around, especially in the last like 2 years with this business. Like, you name it. We've got people in Vietnam, Colombia, Panama, blah, blah, blah. I've been
Mm-mm.
around, and what I can say most is that it's not about where you go, but it's about the mentality that you bring there.
Right.
And as you can see with remote work, like remote work is like a thing, and it's the same thing. It's about the mentality that you bring there with
Mm-mm-mm.
you. And once you build like, I really like hear your story of like wanting to be where you're at
Mm.
and have a good life, and that this is now easier with the position that we've extended to you than it would have been to continue working locally as an entrepreneur. And that's like,
Right.
I mean, that will be, I mean, first of all, for someone like you to be there and to choose that option will be like a really big surprise to a lot of people who never hired outside of the USA, for example, as it
Mm-mm-mm.
was. And to actually reveal the fact that you're happy where you are and you just actually want normal living, and that it's also really exotic for people. So what I want this video to do is actually to sell to our clients. This is a guy that we found, we hired,
Mm.
we gave him a position. He's happy because he can actually make a better life where he's from.
Mm. Mm.
And like it's the same with our contractors in Serbia. And then there's the categories of us who are actually expats who left up, like me. I grew up in Canada and I moved
Mm-mm.
to Europe, and the same thing has given me the opportunity to live a life here that a lot of people envy, actually.
Mm-mm. Mm.
And it's like, well, now that we're in the global economy, is there a way to approach this thing that like is a win-win for everybody involved? And
Mm.
that's what kind of the business exists for.
Yes.
And anybody who's not feeling like that it's a win-win for them,
Mm.
you know, having to maintain a internal staff of 7 full-time, sorting through 50 to 100 applicants a day, it's like,
Mm.
that's a business. But then once in a while a Jonathan comes and is just amazing. And
Thank you.
Sarah said that she was like, when she was interviewing you, the first interview, she was almost ashamed to be like asking these questions on the script like that we gave her, because you're
Yeah.
so eloquent. And so we're looking for that. So anybody who's watching this who's applying to our company, and yeah, this guy's the template of what we hire and who we're
Mm.
bringing on board. And yeah, a lot of people will be really super inspired by our business model, want to be a part of us, but they won't make it because there's just some people like this who are getting ahead of them.
Right.
And that's the reality of
Mm.
competition. Searching for jobs, of course, we're looking for the best
Mm-mm.
people, and
Mm.
also I will add the best clients. I reject lots of clients, like on the basis
Mm-mm.
that I don't think that they will provide the right environment for
Mm.
remote workers. And we could just like simply run like a meat grinder and sort of like match up people who could do the job and be trained for it,
Mm-mm.
and companies that could be will pay,
Well, I
and
hear a lot of
sort
if
of match
and
them
or
up like
maybe there.
what?
I said I hear a lot of if and or maybe. That sounds
Yeah.
terrible.
Well,
That
I'm
sounds
looking
terrible.
like I really realize that my quality of life as the owner of this business
Mm,
is significantly affected by the bad contracts and the complaints
yes.
that we get. And if one guy who we assign to a client is not working out, and if one client is not providing a good environment for somebody who we assign to them,
Mm, mm,
it's just like it's going to be a thing that I wake up in the morning and I think about.
mm,
And the better solution is to like learn how to intuitively like screen these clients and these
mm,
contractors who are going to be like that, who are going to be actually the ones that I actually wake up thinking about, go to sleep thinking about. It's like going to be problematic. It's just like, nah, I'm just going to say no. Like I made literally like this week, I think I made decisions that the company would have, if I made the decision for profit,
mm,
for capitalism, for gain and stuff like that, we would have had like $1,000 a month more as
mm,
profits in
mm,
the business. But I don't think of it like that anymore because like I'm
mm,
fine. I paid myself a salary from the companies.
mm, mm,
It's cool where I can't spend all that money in Serbia, and so I'm fine. And so it's like it's reached the point where I want to make the decisions on the business that are based on values and
mm.
people and a good feeling. And if I don't do that, there's no point to do anything because
Right.
like it's gonna make it something I'm gonna walk away with.
Mm,
Whereas
mm,
actually now I wake up every day and I'm like, I did it.
mm,
I've got more than 40 people around the world who I facilitated their livelihood, and if any of them have any problems, we're here to help.
mm.
And with our clients, same thing. We're providing all the consultation. Like when anything goes wrong, we're here, and we've got like visibility of like 10 different clients or 18
Yeah.
different clients that have the same business model. We can kind of like say like, oh, we've done this before, it's not working out because of this, put in this
Yeah.
procedure, and but then this expectation of if they can't reach that, then we'll fire them, no problem. But
Mm,
like, and it's all about, and this is something that I find a lot of business owners don't have because they're still like concerned with this like survival level,
mm.
the
Exactly.
survival. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
which is
scarcity.
one of the things that this position has given me is I'm no longer living on that, oh my God, how am I going to survive mentality, um, which is very nice. It makes a big difference in the quality of your life and how you feel about yourself and how you feel in your daytime when you are doing things, you know. Don't get me wrong, I still have the same pressure I normally had, which was I got to help these clients to fix their problems. And when something is not really working out, you get a little bit stressed out because why can't I fix this? But that's generic. I mean, that's part of the job. That's why I love it because it does that to me, you know. Um, so yeah, it's fantastic.
And basically, one thing that I really like about this business, actually, like it's really annoying because like the skills that you need to do the job are not teachable. Actually, you have
Yes.
to have the ability to learn yourself,
Mm,
and sort out like technology and going on a platform you've never troubleshooted before
right.
with a moment's notice, and actually deliver results based on Googling. And that's the skill, actually, the
Mm,
learning things
mm,
fast and being able to intuitively like navigate your way around panels and systems and all that stuff.
right.
That's the job. And I always had that, and it's hard to screen and hire for people who have that. And it's really hard to explain to clients that they need that and not
Mm,
this person has a certificate in VMware or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
You know, but the thing that really I love about this business is like it's honest.
Mm,
The thing is working or it's not working.
right.
Like they have a problem, you fix it. If you're the person to fix it, you're the guy. They
That's it.
love you. You're and if you can't fix it, yeah, that's a whole procedural thing that needs to be dealt with. Like,
Mm, mm,
why
mm,
can't you fix it? Which password don't you have in the documentation? All
mm,
that
mm,
stuff.
mm,
That's all
mm.
stuff that we deal with. But at the end of the day, our business is actually people have problems, we solve them, and it's a very honest business. It's not like sleazy like marketing or some other businesses. It's like, yeah. We are real practitioners, and the
Right.
result is immediate. And you can see when we're doing our jobs
Mm,
correctly,
mm, mm, mm.
explaining things correctly, and it's like honest. And I really love that because you can actually tell the truth. And
Yeah.
that's what gets me up every day because if I was running some business where I had to sell based on you know
Assumptions.
things that I would convince people of that aren't actually concrete or
I
anything like
get
that,
it.
I
I
would
get
not
it.
feel this. But since it's like my job is to find the best people for IT companies around the world,
Mm,
because I decided rather than being the super tech, I want to be actually management. And it was like
right.
a fork in the road. It's like I could actually be the guy in the server closet doing everything,
Mm,
but I like talking with people enough that there's an opportunity here to be the guy who can be like the nerd to business translator.
right.
And that's the path that I chose because it is about telling the truth, and it is
Mm,
about like relaying that truth diplomatically. And in senior level technicians like you, they look for people who have both those skills, and
mm,
often
mm,
the people who have the high level technical skills will not have the diplomatic skills. And I would
right.
applaud you for having both of those and having run your own business and all that, and
Thank you.
actually reaching a place where it's like, yeah, you know what, actually, like I could actually do this for someone else, and if it worked out, that would be easier. Like, I mean, there's still
Mm,
lots of opportunity in the coming years that we could use your entrepreneurial drive to do whatever, but
mm.
I'm glad that you're fine where you are right now.
Yeah, look, I'm very happy. I don't have any problems. Actually, it's quite surprising to me. Um,
Yeah.
you know, Coming from a life of general problems, I'm feeling really good at the moment.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, man.
Mm, mm, mm.
Okay, so let's finish this. I mean, thank you very much for this interview recording, whatever
No
it
problem.
is. And I think actually this works as a long format one, so I might post that if that's all right with you.
Okay, that's fine with me. I don't mind.
Because it's like more in depth. Because normally I post like these 20-minute rambling videos of me
Right.
talking about something like dispatch role and escalations and stuff that. But actually, to get to know someone like you, who we actually hire in South Africa,
Mm,
and the whole story, I think people will appreciate that. So I'll probably
okay.
post this whole thing. So
I'm very grateful for the opportunity and thank you for your time.
thank you. All right.
Thank you, Eric. We will chat again soon, man. Have a fantastic day. I'm getting my long weekend on now because
Yeah,
4th of
exactly. Yeah,
July.
man. It's July 3rd in the US. July 4th is the holiday that spills over to
Right.
today. So I'm going to stop the recording now. Yeah.
No, that's fine. So at this moment, actually, alcohol is sort of temporarily legal. You can only buy it from a Monday to a Thursday. And
Did
I was
you
like,
stock up? Yeah.
yeah, I bought myself a couple of beers for the first time in 3 months, amazingly. So
Shit.
I've been waiting for after this, and I'm like,
They did that
yes,
actually. They did that actually in Thailand when I was there for the
yeah,
lockdown. Like it was like alcohol is illegal now. It's like
yeah. So
fuck. Yeah,
cigarettes are also illegal
but
here
that was
now.
not illegal. So I was actually
Mm.
smoking more than ever, really badly, because my balcony in Thailand was just perfect for
Well,
smoking. So,
that's nice though.
man,
So
without further ado, crack that beer.
yeah,
Thanks a
I'm
lot.
gonna go play some Xbox, drink my beer, and have a great weekend.
I
Thank you,
really
Eric. I
enjoyed this
appreciate it, man.
conversation. Thanks a lot.
Me too. Have a good day, man. Cheers, eh?
All right, ciao, man.
Bye.
Bye.